What is up, guys? Wraec here with a new video, and today with a review to Chaos Bound Spirit Gaggy. He is basically a Transcendence hero that I didn't even find a whole lot of videos on. Nobody really cared too much about his release, which is a bit sad because his idea is kind of cool. Basically, what he is like he is one of the best counterattackers in the game. We got to feel that a little bit in Void Campaign, if you are at that point already. I'm not sure if it was like Island 6 or 7 where he was released for the first time. He is a horrible opponent to fight. He is an absolute monster. He does a ton of damage every time you hit them, and that is due to his last ability where he counterattacks the entire enemy team. So you hit one of your heroes, hits him, and he starts a counterattack and hits your entire team. Let's watch the video. So here is just a small fight from Voidhorde. Keep your eyes on that Gaggy. Every time this Gaggy is hit, he will launch his counterattack. It's not difficult to miss. And one more thing that you want to note, you will see small symbols on the enemies with like one of them is basically ice and the other one is red. And those are also effects from him. They will display us with a little countdown. There's like a 3 on there. If you first see them, I will point it out once one appears. And those are his specialty, and those are rather important. There is the first one, the burning one, number 3 on there, and that is now a countdown. Basically, it's reduced at the end of the round by 1. There is another one. There is this little ice one that I talked about. And he can also reduce them with some of his effects. The counterattacks themselves on a PvP version of him, and keep in mind this one does have significantly more attack than the 60 million, because that is with soul power on him and everything. It doesn't do too much damage, at least in comparison to something like Patricia. Patricia is an absolute monster, and he kind of falls behind. I mean, he fell behind even SQH in this scenario, fell behind definitely behind DDGN, and we don't even have to talk about Patricia. So kind of like not too much damage. We saw the little countdowns on there. If you wonder what those do, we can take a look at this text and we'll see that quite easily. Basically, he has 2 of them. The fire one is called Judgment of Fury. We saw the countdown of 3, and basically when the countdown reaches 0, he deals 3000% of attack damage divided by the number of surviving enemies. So if there are 6 enemies on the board, it's divided by 6, and every enemy will take 600% of attack damage, and then he burns them, dealing 10% of their max HP, which also has a cap as damage. And I have to say, this isn't a lot. It feels weird, but really isn't a lot of damage. I think the initial idea of this was that it starts like a chain reaction, because at the end of ZC there is a 50% chance to reduce the countdown of all enemies' Judgment of Iciness by 1. So I think it was just designed to start a little bit of a chain reaction to trigger multiples of them, and then that they deal a ton of damage. Really, you sometimes see them trigger and then you see the burn, but I never felt like, oh, if that triggers, that's like a huge threat. And I wouldn't feel like, you know, this feeling that you have when the enemy DTV reaches weakness disclosure, and you know, oh, if that thing gets another active skill, then your team is done. You never have that with Gaggy. You can have this countdown reach 1 and you are like, okay, it's probably just going to get out cancelled by some heal effect that I have from my PDE or something. So it's never like this huge threat, and it's never like very much so of a problem. We have the Judgment of Iciness. It is pretty cool. It basically works the same. It doesn't burn the enemy though. It has a 40% chance to inflict freeze cold chill on the enemy. And then the same, we also have a 50% chance to reduce Judgment of Fury by 1. Freeze Cold Chill is a pretty good effect though. It's a full CC, so unable to release active skills, basic attacks, extra attacks, everything. And it cannot restore HP. We initially saw that on Starwing Jara, and it is a pretty good CC. You see it sometimes come into effect. Keep in mind though, that is a warrior, and warriors don't really benefit from too many control immunity offset and control precision buffs. We have Treasure Train, of course. If you have a substantial Treasure Train, you will notice that if we check out warrior buffs in here, it's mostly damage buffs, all damage buffed, armor buffs, something like this. And if we go into mage, we see this major control precision buff, 35.3% and 20% CI offset. And it's not only Treasure Train, it's really the same also for the Galactic Tree. where once we check out our star spawns, we see the mage star spawn being the one that grants control immunity offset bonuses goes to mage, and then we have the other one, which is this one, is also control immunity offset, and that's abyss mage. So we don't really have warrior buffs or too many warrior buffs that buff our control precision and CI offset. So you will have, if you want to make this really effective, you would have to supplement for that in your role and get some stuff in there. I have a twine immunity roll. I have to say it's not really that important because those counterattacks, they do trigger also when he's CC'd, which is the thing that makes him such a threat in PvE, because you can CC him and that won't stop his damage. So, and then again, we have to say in PvE, he takes off like 30% of your hero's HP with one counterattack. In PvP, we saw is quite not the case. And what I mostly got from his counterattacks and what I use that for is to get rid of unbanning will layers. He's particularly good at that because this counterattack, of course, doesn't trigger enemy HHA. It just takes off the shields, and that works quite well. So this is like the better part of his effect. But neither the Judgment of Fury nor the Judgment of Iciness in any way feel substantially scaled. They don't feel strong. They don't feel like a good effect. And the extra investment that you would have to make Judgment of Iciness a viable CC alternative or a viable CC is quite high, and would probably end up with you getting like a bonus stat where you would want control precision and CI offset to make this work. So those are in a way viable stats for him, even though it is a bit weird that you put that on Warrior. The last thing I have to note is I think the countdown of 3 is quite long. It is meant to be reduced by other effects. It is quite high because it's not supposed to be instant. It is supposed to play into this theme of him having a time bomb, basically, and it's supposed to be reduced by other effects. We have that in there. We have it, for example, also in the active skill, afterwards used to count off Judgment of Fury and Iciness on all enemies by 1. Which means the thing is, if you don't have Twine immunity on him and you play against a lot of TBB teams in PvP, you won't really get that cooldown reduction all too often, meaning those countdowns will be rather long, and you saw in my last fight, 2-round fight. You will never see that in a 2-round fight, so you'll never get the effect of those even mediocre effects in there. And all that time, a lot of his kit actually plays around those Judgment of Fury, Judgment of Iciness effects, which is a bit weird considering they are not particularly strong. So with that being kept in mind, it is yeah, I'm not sure. There are some things in the noble sublimations that are nice though. We can, when we inflict Judgment of Iciness, we reduce targets all damage dealt by 20%. That's pretty cool. But other than that, yeah, also not a whole lot of damage here. We should keep that in mind. Some armor steal. The best thing about him that I notice is his taunt. He has a 75% chance to taunt enemies with his active skill, which is the second type of CC that he actually has. So interestingly enough, the stronger stuff seems to be CC, because taunting the enemies, having them hit him, only him, so like even the TBB would only hit him, and then triggering a lot of counterattacks is like a nice way to use him. So in a weird way, you kind of want to invest a little bit into CC, which we don't have. I would need some control precision and CI offset here. I wouldn't want to lose the Twine immunity, not because of the counterattacks. The counterattacks trigger either way, but because I really want to get the active skill too. I really want to get a basic skill too. And we get also some control into offset through taunting enemies, which we also have in here. So he has a ton of CC for being this kind of warrior that he is. So in a way that is a bit weird. We have the last skill, this passive skill. Yeah, it is an attack buff, it is a speed buff. You barely notice that one, I'll be real with you. You barely notice that this even exists. So it's like, ew, I don't know. Pretty worthless. It should be okay, some buffs in there, but I never noticed it. I'll be real with you. Then let's go over the DT a little bit. I hate the DT. It should be good, but I hate it. When Self has 12 layers of transition power, I already start hating it at that point. Consumes all 12 of them to deal 2000% attack damage to all enemies, and there's a 50% chance to inflict the other kind of judgment on the target with only one judgment. So like, you have the Judgment of Iciness on there, you get the Judgment of Fury. Pretty cool, actually. I like that idea. I just feel like, in general, 12-layer transition power skills are weak. Most of them are weak, this is now the way we deal damage in PvP. PvP should be his thing. I don't think it should be 12 layers. That is too much. And the main thing that annoys me way more than everything else is that they didn't give him a special kind of transition power again. They did that for Patricia, for example. She has a special kind of transition power again, and I would wish they made it basic, active, and then on the third one, I would really like to see whenever he counterattacks, has a chance to gain 1 precision power, gains 1 transition power. I would really like to see that. I think that would be very cool. Further amplifying that idea of just, hey, you go for the counterattacks. So just let it be that. And it would be pretty cool. And then you make the DT like a transition power or something. Make it with the counter attack, and you can get it like within 1 or 2 rounds if you get it like if you have enough hits on there. So that would be very, very cool. Sadly, didn't get that. So now, well, we have a 12 transition power gain that doesn't have too much influence on the fight. Is it worth to D6 him? We should probably check out the preview for that. That's a little bit easier to check. You can see how old he is, by the way. 5th last, directly released after TBB. No hype at all. Quite interesting. So, same effect really, you have the 12 layers again, you have the 2000% damage, he consumes them still, so yeah, sad. We have the same effect till here, and then afterwards use the cooldown of all judgment on the target by 1. If there is no judgment, there's a 35% chance to inflict Judgment of Fury and Judgment of Iciness respectively on them. It is a decent effect. I like the cooldown reduction, of course, makes this damage bit more influential, but also this again plays around the judgments, and you would think the judgments are good, but really in PvP is not too influential. It's like, I can maybe remember one fight where I won because I got lucky on one of those judgments, and one of those judgments had an effect. I think it was a Judgment of Iciness freezing a DTV, and that made me win the fight, but it's like so rare. It's so rare. That one we already went over. For this one, you can go for the debuff reduction, you can go for the shield. Armor block, I wouldn't really go for that. Attack for the highest ally is nice. Front row allies control immunity is not that influential. All enemy speed reduction, especially if you run like a DGN, is very, very great actually, so we can take that. Target with Judgment of Iciness reduced control immunity is a pretty good one, because you get some extra CC from that. Burn damage taken, he doesn't do too much burn. Like, honestly, the burn is not that insane. You either go for the self-energy, which I like. The self-energy is more taunt, so it's pretty good. Also lets you activate all of those judgments a bit easier. Or you go for this one. Like, this one I would say is priority. It's a bit better. And here we have control precision is a bit of a low buff again. The speed is not unnecessary, so I would probably go for all damage dealt. And the last one, I wouldn't even go there. You don't really have to go for Destiny rank 6 on a hero that has one of those 12 transition power things, so in that regard, I don't think it's particularly great. You can watch another fight though. Let's do that. And did I even like him in that sense? Did I even like him? Did I think that he is like a good hero? I kind of liked him for some time. I really liked that you could easily take off the Unbending Will layers, but I think he struggles a bit with what he wants to be. I think they wanted you to really focus on those layers of Judgment of Iciness and Judgment of Fury, and then the weird thing is you sometimes pass a fight and you didn't even see one of those judgments on an enemy. And it's sometimes even on like 3 or 4 round fights where it just didn't happen. And that is such a weird thing where I think, well, where you really consider, should I put this guy in my team? Or am I better off really using Yom Tomb, or putting like DGN, or putting what I plan now, Alikita into the team? There we have our first judgment there. It's on 3 rounds. And yeah, so like really the effect is a bit limited. The extra reduction is good, but even for the taunt that where set it is a good thing, you so often just don't see a trigger. And he's no damage alternative for PvP in my opinion. So like, you never would use him for damage, you use him for utility, and the biggest utility that he has is CC, and that requires specific investment. And even for that, well, if you want CC, then you can use other heroes. And if you want counterattacks, I still think SSM is better. SSM struggles with other things. SSM struggles with being CC, but if you get twine immunity on that guy, well, it's kind of good. And he can't really utilize, Gaggy can't really utilize that advantage that he has, that he can counterattack while being CC'd. Because still, when he is CC'd, you lose so many of his abilities that it's not worth him to run him while he's CC'd. So that makes it all a bit difficult. But also, copies are pretty rare, so getting like an S tier copy like I have is actually not that easy. I crafted that myself. I don't think it was a bad idea, but I don't think he's good enough to stay in my PvP team. PvE, horrible. That's like the short answer to that. It is pretty horrible. We can try that out. That's like that's a problem, like a pretty decent way to try it. I have no idea what artifact I have on him. Okay, we have a fan. Fan is pretty decent. Actually, to show this. In PvE, we see a lot more of those judgments, especially if we make a situation like this one. So we actually have some damage there. It's not like we have absolutely zero damage. And the judgments also work. So there we saw some judgments. Nice counterattack there, activating Judgment of Iciness, getting a full CC. And then we understand suddenly the problem. Well, when we do that, we kind of stop him from counterattacking. So once you CC enemies with Judgment of Iciness, you stop them from attacking you, so you can't counterattack anymore. So like, I think that in itself is like bad synergy. The taunt is great, the taunt works out. But I would rather have like a judgment that inflicts taunt, and even better, the upgraded version of it. So, I mean, he didn't do bad there, but I think last time I tried it was with less attack. I would rather have like the upgraded version of taunt, and even that he doesn't inflict, by the way. I don't know, some people always forget about it. The Age apparently does too. There is the Transcendence version of taunt. There is taunt confrontation that reduces the all damage dealt by 30% of the 33% of the heroes that are inflicted with it. He doesn't inflict that. He inflicts regular taunt. If the Judgment of Iciness inflicted regular taunt instead of the full freeze, I would, or not regular taunt, but Transcendence taunt, the taunt confrontation, I would be very happy. But like the combination of him being blocked there, yeah, is a bit insane. I think we have too many stats right now to actually show him off from Seal, and we can try one more battle. But I think the problem is I wailed too much on Treasure Train. Interesting problem, by the way. Wailing too much on Treasure Train and therefore being too strong for this. So interesting for sure. So yeah, he has no way to deal with attribute reductions either. So that can also be a problem, can also reduce his damage by quite a lot. Keep that in mind. I don't think you guys will build him. Like, I wouldn't recommend it. Nice example here of him being CC'd and still doing the counterattacks. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I of course wanted to try him. I of course wanted to see what happens. Nice full taunt. And it's still you can see how useful his CC can be. But that's PvE. That's low control immunity. So he has way easier time inflicting CC here than in PvP, where we stack control immunity with like PDEs. So I don't know. Makes it a little bit more difficult, and investing into control immunity offset. I mean, running him with the Rui would be an idea in that sense, but then probably he's a little bit too squishy. So yeah. Didn't do too bad here. I have to say, didn't do too bad here, but we are on round 10. So, I guess that is a little bit of a problem in itself. Because we're nearly running out of time here. We can do a little bit of comparison now in the boss stage. Maybe we just take him, swap him out, put in my gnome home on a SQH and see if she can do anything. I also don't know what artifact is on her. The artifact is apparently that she's stunned. Very nice. Like that. Very, very good. I hope she has control immunity purify, but I'm not sure she has. I'm not quite sure she has. No, she doesn't. Okay. Probably should have equipped her with something before. But I can't even deal damage to her. That's fancy. Yeah, okay, without control immunity purify, that is going to be a bit of a problem here. But yeah, I mean, I think she's still probably going to clear that. Despite being CC'd for like 3-4 rounds. So I would say that is still a better result. My god, she's tanky. But like even the performance in terms of defense, look at that. Like all of the dodges, all of the 1 damage that we see there. I think she has a flag equipped. Considering that was the boss stage, I think she still did pretty well. Can we please not fail this? Okay. I mean, it was a turn 14 clear, so it was a bit slower, but there was also way more damage. And we had no control purifier. Which artifact did she have equipped? A flag, okay. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Overall, not worth it to go for Gaggy in my opinion. Pretty unbalanced skills. I would hope they rebalance it a little bit. Make for the DT a bit stronger with the special method to get transition power from counterattacks. That would be very nice. And other than that, a bit of a weird design, focusing too much around CC in my opinion. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. And with that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.